It was a criminal conspiracy by the editor of Britain's highest-selling Sunday newspaper. That culminated in the hacking of a murdered teenager's phone. Today, former News of the World editor and number 10 spin doctor Andy Coulson was found guilty of conspiring to hack phones. His ex-colleague, the former News International chief executive Rebekah Brooks, was cleared of all charges. A jury today ruled Andy Coulson did know phone hacking was taking place at his newspaper. Among the victims, murdered teenager Millie Dowler, our Home Affairs correspondent Andy Davis was in court.
Out of the Old Bailey he walks, and into the midst of an industry which once so empowered him.
Any comments, Mr. Coulson? Anything to say, sir?
Now trying desperately to capture every second of his tumultuous and very public fall from grace.
Anything to say?
Anything to say, he's asked, no response. Andy Coulson, the former tabloid boss, former prime ministerial aide, this evening leaving court in the knowledge he may now face prison over his role in the phone hacking scandal. And no doubt aware that already the Prime Minister has begun his own Andy Coulson damage limitation exercise.
I take full responsibility for employing Andy Coulson. I did so on the basis of undertakings I was given by him about phone hacking, and those turn out not to be the case. I always said that if they turned out to be wrong, I would make a full and frank apology, and I do that today.
Among all the many targeted by the News of the World, there were celebrities, politicians, royals, and of course, victims of crime. Andy Coulson has now been found guilty of a hacking conspiracy, hacking which happened under his editorship at the News of the World on an industrial scale. He once emailed a journalist with the simple instruction, do his phone. And it was Coulson who exposed David Blunkett's relationship with a married woman after one of his reporters hacked into voicemails left by the then Home Secretary.
Well, naturally, I'm relieved that justice has been done. For the people around me, for the hurt and the distress that was caused and is still with them today, nothing can bring that back. But I do think that we've demonstrated that we've dealt firmly with criminality, and now we can concentrate on building up, on reinforcing the importance of good investigatory professional journalism that does the job honestly and openly.
Mind your back, mate.
What a contrast then for the Prime Minister's old friend and Andy Coulson's former lover, Rebekah Brooks, the woman whose barrister said had been the subject of a witch hunt, cleared today of all the charges against her and leaving court with her husband Charlie also acquitted. So much noise has surrounded this trial, and when it came down to it, the judge asked for complete silence in court for the verdicts. The defendants stood side by side in the court, and when Andy Coulson heard the word guilty, he didn't move an inch. He just looked straight ahead. Rebekah Brooks, with her husband Charlie on one side of her and her former PA Cheryl Carter on the other, at the first of the 3 not guilty verdicts, looked at the jury and smiled. Rebekah Brooks had walked into Court 12 today chatting to her husband. She left it a few hours later looking close to tears in the corridor outside, being supported by an Old Bailey nurse. She'd been charged with a phone hacking conspiracy while editing the News of the World, notably at a time when her paper hacked the voicemails of the murdered teenager Millie Dowler, an act she'd later describe as horrific. Today she was found not guilty of being involved. She's also been cleared of authorising illegal payments to a public official while editor of The Sun. The official, an MOD press officer, was paid over £100,000 for stories. And she's been cleared too of a cover-up, of conspiring to pervert the course of justice, together with her former PA, Cheryl Carter, also acquitted today of removing notebooks from the News International archive as the police investigated.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl Carter kept saying this afternoon. Rebekah Brooks' husband, Charlie, had also been accused of a cover-up, of a complicated little plot to hide laptops and documents at one stage in an underground car park from the police. He said it was to hide embarrassing pornography. Today, the jury cleared both him and the former News International head of security, Mark Hanna, of perverting the course of justice. And then finally there was Stuart Kuttner, the veteran journalist and the former News of the World managing editor, another senior figure accused of complicity in phone hacking. also today found not guilty. For Andy Coulson, this trial isn't over just yet. The jury are still considering their verdicts in relation to 2 other charges. These involve allegations that he authorised one of his journalists to make illegal payments to police officers. Accusations he's repeatedly denied.